I want you to imagine a moment suspended in time. Perhaps you've felt it yourself, a quiet evening, a soft glow spilling across a room, the world outside, fading into insignificance. And yet there is someone there who makes your pulse hesitate, your thoughts scatter, your soul lean forward with a quiet, inexplicable anticipation. It's not about the way they look or the ease with which they move or even the laughter they offer. It's something deeper, something almost invisible, like a thread woven through the air between you, pulling gently at the core of your being. And in that thread, there is a power older than any trend, more magnetic than any display of perfection, the power of being known, of being understood before anything is touched, before anything is asked, before anything is spoken. We have been told quietly, persistently, that attraction begins at the surface in flawless skin, in the careful framing of images, in the subtle choreography of smiles and angles. Many women have grown up believing they must sculpt themselves, polish every gesture, perfect every outfit, memorize the scripts of seduction. And yet there remains a truth no mirror can reveal. There is a magnetism that does not bend to appearances, a force that bypasses the eyes and lodges itself directly into the landscape of a man's mind, where desire is born not from the touch, but from the resonance of presence. It is subtle, almost alchemical. A language few are taught to speak, but one that leaves men who seem untouchable, who appear out of reach, who carry their own invisible burdens utterly, irrevocably captivated. This power, though it feels mysterious, has a clarity when understood. It does not demand effort to impress. It requires courage to feel fully, to be unafraid of the silence, of the pauses, of the invisible currents running beneath words. It is in knowing how to connect with his mind first, with the secret chambers of thought and longing, before you ever seek to connect with his body. Carl Jung, who understood the hidden depths of human desire, taught us that what we project into the world returns to us multiplied, that the inner landscape dictates the outer reality. And this is precisely where the magic lies. A man may surrender his body easily enough, but he opens the recesses of his heart and mind only to the woman who touches something unseen, something profound, something that lingers long after she is gone. Consider for a moment how transformative it would feel to stop striving for external perfection, to stop chasing validation in the way you look or in the fleeting approval of others, and instead to cultivate an awareness of your own depth, to recognize the quiet authority of your presence, to understand that a gaze, a word, a pause, a carefully placed hint can stir a man's imagination more than any calculated compliment or staged encounter. This is not manipulation. It is artistry, a conscious unfolding of the feminine essence that chooses to reveal, rather than to beg to inspire curiosity, rather than demand attention to awaken longing in the mind before the body even comes into play. And once you begin to see it, the world begins to shift. Men respond differently, but more importantly, you respond differently to yourself, to your desires, to your own worth. Because it is not about changing them. It is about claiming the gravity of your own presence, the clarity of your own center, the quiet fire that cannot be ignored. When you cultivate this, even without trying, you begin to touch the unspoken spaces inside a man, where longing resides, where fear and hope intertwine, where ambition and vulnerability meet. And there, in that intimate, chaotic, profoundly human place, the true connection is born. There is a rhythm to this connection, subtle and almost imperceptible, like the slow turning of tides beneath a calm sea. It begins with noticing what is not said, with listening to the spaces between words, with feeling the currents of emotion that flicker across a glance or a fleeting expression. Men, even the most composed, carry within them hidden worlds, places of doubt, desire, longing, and unspoken fear. Most will never share them, not fully, not willingly, because the world has taught them that vulnerability is a weakness, that emotion must be hidden beneath a veneer of control. But a woman who knows how to enter that world with quiet respect, who meets the mind before the body, who recognizes the richness of these hidden landscapes, she becomes unforgettable. Not because she changes him, but because she allows him to recognize himself in a way no one else has. Imagine the power of suggestion, the gentle art of letting him fill in the blanks of your presence. A single phrase spoken with intention can paint 1,000 stories in his mind, each more alluring than the last. It is not what is said, but what is implied, what is left hovering between two people in a moment of quiet resonance. Instead of laying everything bare, the woman who understands this leaves space for imagination, for longing for the slow bloom of desire. She does not chase, she does not clamor for attention. She observes, she notices, she cultivates an energy that feels alive, unpredictable, magnetic. And in that energy, a man begins to inhabit a world where she is the axis around which his thoughts turn, the lingering note in a song he cannot forget, the presence that seems to ripple through hours even when she is not near. Silence becomes her ally. The pause that carries meaning is far more powerful than words. A look, a quiet breath, a moment held just long enough for the mind to race ahead, these are the subtle gestures that leave traces on his consciousness. In these pauses, he builds entire narratives, entire fantasies, entire emotional connections that no overt action could ever create. He wonders, he imagines, he aches for the continuation of a story he can barely articulate, and yet he feels it as vividly as any reality. That is where desire takes root. That is where he becomes drawn to her in a way that is not fleeting, not superficial, but profound and enduring. Then there is the art of almost the delicate tension between expectation and fulfillment, between presence and absence. She whispers, she hints, she approaches the edge of intimacy and retreats, leaving the mind suspended in anticipation. There is a unique magnetism in the unfinished, a pull that no completed gesture could ever rival. A man does not merely respond to what is given. He responds to what he believes he might gain, to the possibilities that hover just beyond reach. By allowing desire to linger, by nurturing it without extinguishing it, she creates a space where he is compelled to return, compelled to seek her, compelled to carry her presence into his thoughts long after the encounter ends. This is not about deception, nor about mastery in the mechanical sense. It is about presence, awareness, and emotional courage. It is about holding the knowledge that your own depth is your most potent magnet, that your worth is not measured by the attention you receive, but by the gravity with which you inhabit your own life. And in that awareness, something extraordinary happens. Men respond not to the exterior alone, but to the energy, the subtlety, the authenticity that cannot be faked. They remember not what you wore, not the lines you spoke, but the way your presence made them feel seen, intrigued, awakened, and profoundly stirred. To understand this, you must first see that true desire is born in the mind, not the body. The male mind is a universe of contradictions, of ambitions, insecurities, unspoken fears, and secret longings. Few women ever venture there with awareness, and fewer still know how to navigate its intricate terrain without trying to fix control or conquer it. Yet, it is in this unseen realm that a woman can leave her most profound mark. She does not need to compete with anyone or exhaust herself performing a role. She only needs to recognize the sacredness of this space, to approach it with curiosity, respect, and the quiet confidence of someone who knows her own value. There is an artistry and attention in the deliberate choice to notice not the obvious, but the hidden. How his eyes shift when a subject touches something tender, how his jaw tightens when an emotion surfaces, how his voice softens when he allows himself to be real. These are the subtleties that reveal his interior world. And when she notices without judgment or interruption, without rushing to fill the gaps with her own voice, she opens a doorway. In that doorway, he feels safe enough to reveal fragments of himself, pieces of thought and feeling that he rarely allows to escape. And in witnessing him with such presence, she does something almost magical. She validates his inner life without demanding a return. She makes him feel seen without trying to change him. She awakens in him the sense that he can be entirely himself and still be valued. And from that place, attraction deepens in ways the superficial eye cannot measure, because it is no longer about fleeting appearances or momentary pleasures. It is about the creation of an invisible connection, one that grows in the quiet spaces, one that lingers after the moment has passed. A glance, a pause, a word carefully chosen. A silence held just long enough. These are the brushstrokes that paint a story in his mind, a story in which she becomes central, a presence impossible to forget. It is the cultivation of anticipation, the gentle teasing of imagination, the knowing that withholding certain things does not deny him, but invites him to participate in the unfolding of desire. There is a rhythm to this dance between presence and absence, between revelation and mystery. It is not manipulation, but a conscious choice to respect both your own power and the sacredness of his inner life. She does not chase, does not perform, does not seek to earn approval. She offers herself fully but selectively, revealing layers like petals of a flower, each discovery a moment of intimacy, each pause a space for longing to grow. She touches him without touching, speaks without saying, and in that delicate tension, desire finds its most fertile soil. And there is something else that cannot be ignored, the magnetism of self-possession. A woman who knows herself, who stands firm in her boundaries, who does not apologize for her intensity, who does not bend to the expectations of another. She radiates a frequency that draws even the most resistant heart. Her confidence is not arrogance. It is the quiet clarity of someone aligned with her own worth. She does not need to convince, coerce, or cajole. Her presence alone communicates volumes, and it is in this presence, steady, intentional, and authentic, that a man begins to anchor his attention and desire. The remarkable truth is that all of this already exists within you. It is not something to be learned like a formula or recited like a line from a book. It is something to be remembered, nurtured, and expressed with the calm courage of someone who knows that to touch a man's mind is to touch the very root of longing. And when you claim this awareness, when you step into this inner authority, you do not simply attract attention, you awaken curiosity, imagination, desire, and respect, all without striving, all without fear, all without compromising the depth of who you are. It is in the gentle mastery of these invisible currents that a woman begins to understand the profound difference between being noticed and being remembered. Any stranger can capture a man's glance for a fleeting second, but only someone who engages the hidden contours of his mind can linger there unshakable long after the world has moved on. She does this not through spectacle, nor through rehearsed gestures, nor through the allure of conventional beauty, but through the deliberate cultivation of presence. She observes, she listens, she responds with the grace of someone who trusts herself, who honors her own rhythms, and who allows space for mystery to flourish. Consider how transformative it feels to let go of the urge to perform, to stop trying to be everything at once, to stop measuring yourself against impossible ideals. Instead, she allows herself to feel fully, to express spontaneously, to communicate authentically, and in that authenticity, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to respond differently. A man notices, not because she has changed what she looks like or how she behaves externally, but because her energy carries a resonance that cannot be ignored. He senses her steadiness, her self-possession, her refusal to settle for anything less than the depth of her own truth. And in that sensing, he begins to meet her there in the unspoken, the imagined, the emotionally charged spaces where desire is born. This is the essence of emotional seduction, the kind that does not rely on manipulation or control, but on alignment. She knows the difference between giving herself away for validation and giving herself as an offering of presence. She understands that true attraction is not a transaction, but a reflection, a mirror of the energy she carries, the confidence she inhabits, the depth she embodies. Men, even when unaware of it, respond instinctively to these vibrations, to the subtle harmonies of attention, imagination, and care. And it is in this response that the alchemy of desire begins quiet, unstoppable, and transformative. There is an art to anticipation, a sacred tension between revealing and withholding, between intimacy and distance. A glance held just long enough, a word chosen to stir his imagination, rather than clarify, a silence that invites him to lean in. These gestures create a dance of emotional gravity that draws him closer, even when he does not fully understand why. And when she combines this with the courage to remain herself, to hold her boundaries with kindness and clarity, she becomes unforgettable. Not because she conforms to expectations, but because she transcends them. Not because she is visible, but because she is deeply felt. And here lies the profound lesson: the journey does not begin with him. It begins within her, in the quiet labor of self-awareness, self-respect, and self-love. It begins in the moments she spends honoring her own thoughts, her own emotions, her own worth. It begins in the reflection of the woman in the mirror who chooses to see herself fully, without apology, without compromise, without fear. For it is in this seeing, this claiming of her own light, that the world begins to respond. Desire, attention, longing. These are byproducts of alignment, of living fully in one's own center, of cultivating an energy that cannot be ignored. The woman who embraces this knows the transformative power of subtlety. She understands that true intimacy is an exchange of presence, not a tally of gestures. She allows herself to engage deeply with the mind, to touch the inner life, to awaken the imagination and curiosity that lie dormant in every man. She does not rush. She does not chase. She allows connection to grow organically, quietly, irresistibly. And in that patience, that awareness, that unyielding embrace of self, she discovers something astonishing: the most enduring love, the most profound desire, the most unforgettable connection does not come from striving to be desired. It comes from existing fully, consciously, beautifully in her own truth. And so she moves through the world differently. Every glance she casts, every word she chooses, every silence she holds carries the weight of authenticity. She has learned that the measure of her power is not in the attention she receives, but in the gravity of her own presence. She understands that a man's desire is not a prize to be won, but a reflection of the energy she radiates from within. He responds not to surface beauty, not to fleeting charm, not to scripts repeated from some imagined ideal. He responds to the woman who knows herself, who stands fully in her own life, who speaks and moves from a place of inner clarity, self-respect, and quiet strength. There is a rare alchemy in this one that cannot be faked, one that cannot be taught in a formula or checklist. It lives in the subtle currents of energy that flow through her being, in the way she can observe without judgment, feel without losing herself, and connect without demanding anything in return. Men may desire many, but they remember one, the one who touched them in a space so intimate, so unseen, that it bypassed explanation entirely. That woman lingers in thought and memory long after the encounter ends. She leaves traces in the mind and heart because she dared to be fully present, to engage with depth, and to honor her own truth. She knows that desire is not a race nor a competition, nor a series of performances to elicit a response. It is a dance of energy, subtle and profound, a meeting of minds that precedes and informs all else. She has discovered that a single word, a measured pause, a sustained gaze, a hint of the almost, these are more potent than any act of physical seduction, more enduring than any fleeting charm. The almost is the cliffhanger that fuels imagination. The silence is the space where longing breathes. The word, painted with intention, becomes a story that he continues in his mind long after she has walked away. She understands that in creating these invisible currents, she does not control him, but she allows him to experience a connection he cannot resist. a longing he cannot dismiss, a recognition that feels essential and alive. And yet this power is rooted not in him, but in her. It is the result of the love she gives herself, the respect she nurtures within the boundaries she holds with calm authority. She has ceased seeking validation externally, and in that liberation, her energy transforms. She no longer bends to please, no longer chases responses, no longer sacrifices her essence for fleeting attention. She observes, she listens, she resonates. She knows that what she projects outward consciously or unconsciously is mirrored back, and that the quality of love, attention, and desire she receives is a reflection of the depth with which she honors herself. There is a timeless lesson in this. The most magnetic force is not the body, not the words, not the performances we offer to the world. It is the presence of a soul aligned with itself. It is the woman who feels comfortable in her own skin, who speaks her truth, who listens beyond the surface, who holds her own space with dignity and grace. When she exists from this center, she awakens the deepest responses in others, and the love and longing that return to her are authentic, sustaining, and life-changing. She becomes unforgettable, not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. So now take a moment to reflect. Your worth, your magnetism, your capacity to create connection, it has always resided within you. Begin there, nurture it, honor it, express it. Let your presence speak. Let your authenticity guide. Let your energy resonate. And in doing so, you will discover that the world responds in kind, that men notice not only your reflection, but your light. That your presence can awaken imagination, longing, and love that endure far beyond the fleeting moments of attention. That the true art of connection begins and ends within you. If this journey touched something inside you, something alive and resonant, take a moment to honor it. Like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, comment with your reflections, and subscribe for more explorations of presence, self-discovery, and the alchemy of human connection. Remember, your value is immeasurable, your light irreplaceable, and your presence unforgettable.